Okay, hi everyone. My name is Brittany Smith, and I am going to be talking about online hate speech, which was an article written by Alexandra Siegel. Okay, so first I'm going to talk about what exactly is online hate speech. So, online hate speech is a type of speech that takes place online, preferably social media, with the purpose of attacking a person or a group of people. Anyone can be subject to online hate speech or at least come across it. All right, so now I'm going to be talking about who are the targets of online hate speech. So people who are generally targeted um, are due to their class, sex, race, gender, sexual orientation, religion, as well as their physical characteristics. So survey research suggests that victims of online hate speech tend to engage in high levels of online activity. So, according to Twitter in 2018, they found that those that were targeted were 60% more likely to be verified than the accounts of instigators and 40% more likely to be verified than general users. So basically, people with a large following were more subject to hate as opposed to those who had a low follower count. Also, journalists, politicians, bloggers, and other public figures were also targeted. And now I'm just going to give some examples. So, for example, when the remake of Ghostbusters was released in 2016 with an all-female cast, a white supremacist by the name of Milo Yiannopoulos didn't like the movie. So other white supremacists attacked an African American actress that was in the movie. Her name was Leslie Jones, and she was bashed heavily on Twitter. Sexist and racial slurs were thrown at her, as well as memes including rape and death threats. Milo continued to harass her online and encouraged his followers to do so. This became too much for Jones, so she decided to leave Twitter altogether. Another example is an author by the name of Mickey Kendall. She said that she was going to leave Twitter because every time she logged in, she would have nearly 3,000 hate comments. She also received a picture. Um, it was a picture of her and her family, and it was sent to her address, and it looked as if someone had shot a bullet hole through it. Another example is another man by the name of Jonathan Wiseman of the New York Times left Twitter due to anti-Semitic harassment. He received many emails and voicemails containing racial slurs and violent imagery. So what I've read so far, social media makes it very easy to spread hate and get their messages across, being that everyone is on social media. So it's pretty easy to get in contact with other people. So this can also be labeled as cyberbullying and has lasting effects for victims involved, which includes depression and withdrawal. Okay, so now I'm going to be talking about the prevalence of online hate speech. So yes, online hate speech is very prevalent today on social media, but social media is not dominated by this form of speech as data suggests. So a small handful of studies have begun to evaluate the prevalence of online hate speech on online platforms, though more work is needed. Hate speech was analyzed in over 750 million political tweets and in 400 million tweets sent by a random sample of American Twitter users between June 2015 and June 2016. They found that only a fraction of a percentage of tweets contained hate speech. Ethiopian Facebook pages were also studied, and they found that 0.4% of statements were classified as hate speech, and 0.3% of tweets were classified as hate speech. So these are extremely small numbers, but across national studies show that actually large groups of people were subjected to hate speech. Studies show that users between the ages of 15 and 30 that 53% of Americans reported being exposed to online hate speech, 48% from Finland, 39% of people from Britain, and 31% of people from Germany reported the exposure. So in addition to exploring the prevalence of on online hate speech, data shows that offline events caused online hate speech or uprising it. So it was found that users on Reddit and Twitter advocated violence during terror attacks in Western countries. Okay, so surprisingly, over the course of Donald Trump's campaign in 2016, online hate speech did not increase. I found this to be surprising because people were more so violent offline, and I thought that that would translate online as well. Okay, here's a quote. So according to Ferris, online hateful speech spikes are often linked to political events. According to Celine, hate speech happens after events that garner a strong emotional response, like the Baltimore protests and the US Supreme Court decision on same-sex marriage. Okay, so now I'll be touching on the topic of offline consequences of online hate speech. So surveys of internet users indicate that exposure to online hate speech may cause fear, particularly in historically marginalized or disadvantaged populations. So other data shows that such exposure to hate speech may cause people to not want to engage in public debates, both online and offline. Data suggests that exposure to hate speech may have some of the same consequences as being targeted by hate crimes. Qualitative research suggests that Muslims living in the West who are targeted by online hate speech fear that online threats will translate offline. And furthermore, large numbers of young African American respondents who have experienced hate speech have been known to develop depression and anxiety. Tynes and Markay found that in their surveys, college-age African Americans were more bothered by racist content on social media, whereas European Americans were more likely to not be bothered by those images. Further data suggests that young people subjected to this type of hate have weaker attachment to their families and report higher levels of unhappiness. So in conclusion, anyone can be a target of online hate speech, and for those affected, it negatively affects their mental health as well as their family members and friends, anyone who's close to them. So, social media is a huge platform, and with it comes its negatives. Thank you.